Today we'll be learning percent of change. We have already gone over the beginning part of this with percent proportions and tax, tip, discount, and commission. So now this is our final part, percent of change. Percent of change, our first vocabulary word, is the percent of a quantity that changes over a period of time. And that usually means that it has increased or it has decreased. Whether it's a tree, whether it's money in a bank account, it could be any kind of quantity. It does not matter. Percent of increase means when the whole quantity changes by going up. So for example, if you have a tree that you are measuring and the tree was 2 feet tall, a tree that is 2 feet tall is now 4 feet tall. It has had an increase. So we would be finding what percent, how much did it increase. We know it got 2 feet tall, but we want to know what percent that is. A percent of decrease is when the whole quantity changes by going down or dropping, decreasing. So when the whole quantity changes by going down. So for example, in the bank, you had $300. And then now you only have $250. So you went shopping. You had lost $50. So your whole quantity has changed by going down $50. And this would be finding the percent of how much it changed. So the notes, there's 2 different ways we could use these different proportions to figure out the percent. One way to describe the change is using percent of change. So we could use difference over the original, percent over 100, or change over the original, percent over 100. Original is the same thing as our whole, the whole amount that we started with. That's the same thing as original. Change, when something is changing, it's either increasing or it is decreasing. But we write how much it changed by. That is called finding the difference. The word difference means we subtract how much. So if I was looking at the tree, I would subtract 4 feet by 2 feet, and my difference or my change would be it changed by 2 feet. If I was doing the bank account, my subtraction would be 300 minus 250, which would be $50. So my change in my whole amount was only by $50. It did not change $250, it only changed $50. So we would plug that in. So if the original quantity is being increased, then it's called percent of increase. But if it is going down, decrease, then it is percent of decrease. So let's try our first example. Eduardo measured a tree after it grew for 1 year, and it was 4 feet tall. So after 1 year, it was 4 feet tall. But after 10 years, it was 10 feet tall. Find the percent of increase, because the tree has all of a sudden grown after so many years. Then we want to see how much. So first off, if we drew a picture of this to help us, this is just one way of thinking of it. It was 4 feet tall, and now you have this giant tree that is 10 feet tall. We're trying to see how far did it increase, not just by feet, but the percent also. So the original, if we were setting it up, the original tree was 4 feet tall. My 100 goes on bottom. That's my whole tree was 100%, 4 feet tall. I want to know what percent it increased. So increased. How much did it grow? Well, so I take my 10 feet and my 4 feet and I subtract them. 10 minus 4 makes 6. So it increased by 6 feet. If you notice, what type of fraction is this? It's improper. 6 is greater than the 4. So you know over here, since we're making equivalent fractions, this number is obviously going to be greater than 100%. If you look at this, and I went, if 4 feet is equal to 100%, and I grow another 4 feet tall, I am 8 feet tall. This tree is 8 feet tall. It grew 100% for sure. But then it grew from 8 all the way to 10, it grew 2 extra feet. So we know that that equals a certain percent also. Do any of y'all know what that percent would be? If this is 100 and it grew another 100%, what would that be? That would be 50%. So it grew from here to here 150%. If we solve our proportion, how many 4s make a 100? 25. 4 times 25. So 6 times 25 is 150%. It increased by 150%. It grew double its size plus another half of that, which would be the 2 feet. So our percent of change, our percent of increase is 150%. Yes, you can go over 100% because they doubled it. Example number 2. On the first week of school, 50 students in the school did not turn in their homework. Bad students. 50 students did not turn in their homework. On the second week of school, only 30 students did not turn in their homework. So that means find the percent of decrease. It's great. We got more students to turn in their homework. We started at 50, but now we're only at 30. So our numbers have decreased. So we write our proportion. Our 100 is our whole amount. The total or the whole quantity of students that we started with was 50 kids we started with. We want to know the percent that they decreased. The number went down, decreased. So instead of 30 students, we don't put 30 right here. 30 is how many it is now. We want to know how much it decreased. So we take 50 minus 30. And that equals 20 students. 20 students it decreased by. That's how much it changed. So now we cross multiply. How many 50s make 100? 2. So 2 times 20 is 40. So 40% decreased. You could also think of it as if you know that you decrease 50 by half, if you decrease half of that, that would be 25 kids. But we only got to 30 kids. We didn't get all the way down to 25 kids. So this is very close to half, but we didn't make it all the way to 25. We stopped at 30. So it's only 40% of a decrease, but very close to half of a decrease, 50%. Okay, last and final example is number 3. Jake had $600 in his checking account. So that's how much he started with, $600. He now has $654. Is this an example of percent of increase or decrease? Which one do y'all think that it would be if he started at 600 and now he has 654? I hope that you said increased. He has gained money. He went from 600 all the way to 654. He gained money. He gained it. So that means we have an increase. So now it says find the percent that it changed. So we want to find the percent. Since we know it's an increase, we label it increased. Increased. The whole amount that Jake started with was $600. And I want to know how much it increased. It didn't increase $654. It only increased, we find the difference, $54. It increased $54. So we cross multiply and divide. You could reduce this fraction if you wanted, or divide by 6, but I'm going to do it the longer way. 54 times 100 equals 5,400, and that has to equal 600 times x. That means that we want to divide both sides by 600. Cross off our zeros. 54 divided by 6 is 9. So we had a 9% increase. That's always a good thing, to increase your money. That means you gained money. That's a great thing. Okay, the rest of the time you're going to try 4, 5, and 6. 6 is a little bit different because this time it asks for which of the following represents the greatest percent of change. So you have 4 situations and they are all changing some way. You need to figure out which one of these would be the greatest change. So you might need to set up a proportion for each one, like answer choice A, set up how much it changed by and solve it. Answer choice B, set up how it changed, and C, and so on. And then D. Figure out what's the percent that it either increased or decreased on each one, and then circle which one had the greatest change.